President Zelensky of Ukraine drawing his red line, pun intended, after meeting with European leaders. Kyiv will not surrender any territory to Russia after Putin's invasion. This comes on the heels of a new push by the Trump administration to get the parties closer to peace. The Ukrainians revealing portions of their new peace plan are ready to be presented to the U.S. envoys this week in yet another bid to find a lasting ceasefire.
Joining us now is former CIA station chief and Fox News contributor Dan Hoffman. Dan, thanks for being with us today. All right, so we're looking at the Ukrainian peace plan. We've looked at and talked about the plan that was already on the table from the U.S. side. My sort of naive reading on this is they seem like they're going to be miles apart. Do you see any possibility of what the Ukrainians bring to the table being something that Russia might in some world agree to?
No, I've never seen the potential for a deal, I'm sorry to say. Look, Russia launched this brutal war to topple Ukraine's government and install their own puppet regime. That continues to be Vladimir Putin's strategic objective. He's spilled a massive amount of blood and treasure, 1 million casualties. He's on his knees begging China to import his hydrocarbons at reduced prices, relying on North Korea for artillery and cannon fodder, North Korean troops he can send to the front. Ukraine has courageously defended their territorial integrity, and they are very much aware that if they make a bad deal, they'll leave themselves vulnerable to a future attack. That's part of the issue here about them giving up territory that Russia hasn't even conquered. The reason why Russia hasn't conquered it is because it's heavily fortified, and it's protecting the rest of Ukraine from a Russian onslaught.
Reading into what President Trump has said, here's the headline from the Wall Street Journal. Trump pushes Ukraine to accept peace deal, saying it is losing. And clearly hardening our position, the U.S. position, toward Ukraine and the European backers, because they're insisting for U.S. security guarantees as a vital part of any peace deal. And no budge here.
Listen, I respectfully would disagree with the president and encourage him to read the reporting from General Jack Keene's Institute for Study of War. Russia's not winning. They're not winning at all. Ukraine has courageously defended their homeland, and I would argue that Vladimir Putin is losing. And his own security guys, his military, his intelligence officers know that very well. That's why the CIA implemented a full-court press recruitment operation using videos that they aimed at Russian, potential Russian sources and enjoyed reportedly a lot of really good recruitments as a result. Autocracies and dictatorships like Vladimir Putin's are brittle. And Vladimir Putin, I think, is at greater risk now than ever before in terms of his hold on the Kremlin.
Dan, I want to move on to this. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, CIA Director John Ratcliffe, and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff Dan Raisin Kane all headed to Capitol Hill to brief lawmakers on the September drug boat attacks amid mass hysteria from Democrats. Listen.
But this is awful for our nation. This is defining us as some kind of like a Putin-esque type of nation.
Yeah, we are the world's #1 bully. And this sends a shocking message to the world that America is indeed what did they used to call the great hand of Satan or something like that? I mean, America under the Trump regime is demonstrating that moniker was entirely accurate. The great Satan.
Okay, so Hank Johnson has his views on this, clearly. Dan, what are your views on the meeting happening at Capitol Hill? What the objective is for Hegseth, Rubio, et cetera, going in, and what do you expect to hear coming out of it?
I can tell you I testified on Capitol Hill an awful lot when I was working at the CIA, and I always appreciated when our elected representatives were a bit more dispassionate and focused on the facts before jumping to conclusions. What I think is going on is that our elected representatives in the Congress are receiving a detailed briefing on how we found and fixed and finished these targets, who they were, what the supply chain looks like, what the networks look like, the extent to which they're engaged in transiting cocaine and other drugs to the United States, to our shores. It's important for us to be as transparent as possible, not only with oversight in Congress, but also, I think, with the American people, especially if the president fulfills his stated aim. He said he would consider strikes on land as well. That's really an act of war. So I think the more transparent we can be, the better. But we're talking about a few boats and roughly 80 alleged drug smugglers whom we've killed. And I think dialing down the rhetoric would probably serve our national security interests.
And Dan Hoffman, just before we go, Hank Johnson was concerned that Guam might tip over and capsize because of a military buildup there. And he's quoting the Ayatollah Khomeini, the founder of the Islamic Iranian Republic, who used to refer to the United States as the Great Satan. So that's well done from a U.S. Congressman. Dan Hoffman, great to see you.
Thanks very much.